JP. Who's got demos?
Yeah, so let's see JP's first, but if we have lots of time at the end, I'll have another look at Audit Trail. We're pretty close there, hopefully. Is Gabor here? Yes, Gabor's here. Excellent.
I'm here.
Who else? I don't have anything. Ship it. Oh my God, even Sergio is here. What's happening? I'm just missing Nick now. And let's start with the demo then from Jean-Philippe, because Jean-Philippe has kids. Jean-Philippe, you want to start? We'll do the status after. So internet is down in Canada. Am I alone here?
I think you just lost JP. The internet's still going here.
Oh, you're muted, JP. Expected?
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I usually don't mute Teams. Yes, I can go. Sorry, I was just setting up the demo right now. Okay, so let's do that. And we'll do a quick one. It should work. Yeah, okay. All right, can I share this screen? Share and this one. So log off, go to and go to this one. All right, so recently at work, we had to build an app to facilitate scheduling appointments, and we decided to open source it. So if you go to our Stack and Archer core repo, we have a folder called apps. It's basically just a module. We have this scheduling application. So I just wanted to demo it. This is using the Vuejs theme that we built, and Vue forms, a couple of modules that we have open source on that repo. So when you come in, all the pages are protected because it's an app that's meant to be used internally. And then you log in and you're presented with a calendar view. So as you can see, you have a nice calendar. You have a list on the side of employees, and you can add a bunch of calendars. Each calendar is just a container for appointments. So let's say you want to add an appointment, you just go to a specific day, you click on somewhere, and a nice little pop-up comes up. You select someone, and you would see a list of many employees if there was more than one. And you create the appointment. There you go. You have it there. You can go and edit it, edit the employee or the appointment itself. And this is just redirecting to the back end. The way it's built, it's using a taxonomy for the calendars. So you can add, let's say you had another one. So demo one, you select the color and publish. You can even put it like this. And now if you go back to the front end, you can see you can have demo one or all of them, all the calendars underneath default. So that's pretty much all I wanted to demo. I mean, it's a simple app to be able to create appointments for people or things or etc. that we built, and it's open source. So you can go check it out at under our repository. And that's it. Was there any question?
It's a taxonomy because you want your calendars to show as a hierarchy, but it's a content type, so it doesn't have to be a taxonomy, right?
Yes. Well, the app is really built around this being a taxonomy, but technically it wouldn't have to be. Yeah, but it's just to be able to have a hierarchy of calendars or categories, if you will, for the appointments. yeah, so you can have multiple first level and hierarchy underneath. And when you go ahead.
This is something we designed in Orchard 1. We talked about it together. So in Orchard 1, what we designed, but we never implemented. We just said, okay, if anyone wants to create a module like a calendar module that would be reusable, what would be interesting would be to have a part like calendar event part or something that you can attach to any content type. And then you can create an appointment content type with this part. And a calendar would be like an item that would display other content items of this type, like a container. It could be a list with a custom view. And it just needs this part. Then you can have your custom properties on your own type, but at least as long as it has the calendar part, then it will show up anything from the calendar part.
That is,
with reusable views and filters.
I think we had something like that before. I never open sourced it, but yeah, that would be a good thing to do. This one was more focused for creating appointments, and I think I also have some configuration if I remember correctly. Yeah, you can say like, okay, it starts at 11 and these are properties of the calendar, so you can limit the amount of time that shows up here and the interval time. I think this is just using the defaults for now, but yeah. Another thing I can quickly demo is, so we have this module for view forms. It's basically a way to create a form and a server-side handler for it. But cool one here is to bulk load employees. So I was testing the shortcodes feature earlier just to see if it worked in there. But yeah, anyway, so with this view form, you can set your view component template, component options object. So it's basically defining the JavaScript on the client side here and a server-side handler, right? Where you can create a content item. And it's just basically a gint script there. And I just added Monaco to it yesterday. And a nice little debug mode where, so if I go, I'm going to publish it and view. So you can see your data going, what's available on the view component. So if I go and select one, test 2, I would submit, you'll see. Okay, so I added a test earlier, but then you can see the response data coming from the server. So it makes it pretty easy to create the forms like that. But yeah, so this particular app is also using, like, the create appointment form is a view form that's popping up in the calendar. And we also have a little contact us form there. But yeah, you can test it out. All you have to do is clone the repo, and there's a setup recipe for it, and it gives you pretty much this view, the default calendar, and all set up properly. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
How can we see the month or the week view? Beautiful.
Wait, month, and click on it, it goes to that day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you are using a view component?
Yes, so we have a theme in our repository. It's based on Vuetify, and it basically allows you to write view code in your Liquid templates, and it's gonna, create a view app with it. So this is a Vuetify theme, and like this component here is set up in a layer, and these menu items are set up as menus as well. So you can have a good overview of how that works. So you see we have the navigation menu there, and inside of a layer, where is it, widgets? We have the drawer that's rendering that menu, right? I think somewhere, I forget if it's in the code. So this drawer is actually rendering a menu with a specific alias. And we also have an app bar, right? So this app bar that you see on top here is added in the layer. I plan on making these parts configurable via menu, but for now they're hard-coded in the theme.
How are the appointments loaded?
The appointments, it's a query. So if you go to queries and all query, you can see like we have a bunch of queries, all appointments, all employees. I think these two are executed for the main page. Or actually, no, that's not true. Appointments for calendar and employees for calendar is the one we use. So for example, if you go and click on demo one, which doesn't have any employees or appointments, it should be empty. So it's filtering like that.
But is it an Ajax call?
It's what?
Ajax call?
No, right now it's a query in the template. So one improvement I'm going to make soon is every time you switch the month, it would do an Ajax call and get the request for that month, probably via a workflow, just to, for it to be configurable in the admin.
Well, employees for calendar or whatever, appointments for calendar is also an API, right? You can invoke the API.
Oh, right. So I could just invoke the API.
And pass parameters if you want with the current month, as long as your SQL query accepts the month as a parameter.
Yeah, so right now you can have multiple. So it's passing a list of quoted calendar ID, right?
That is not good.
No?
It should be an argument here, a parameter.
What do you mean?
Here you are templating the query.
Yes. How do you?
It should be an argument.
Okay.
At calendar IDs. Instead of, so here the idea is that instead of generating a SQL with the values inside a SQL, you will just say there is a parameter called calendar IDs and you pass a list of IDs to it. In terms of SQL, it's less, it's more secure because you don't inject stuff inside a SQL. This is the same SQL query, but the argument value changes over time.
Okay.
It's a SQL parameter versus hard-coded value inside a SQL. Here, this is hard-coded value inside a SQL because you are templating the SQL query.
Okay.
For each calendar IDs list, there will be a different SQL query with your technique. If you use a parameter at calendar IDs, there is a single query. And the payload, it's like a form. The payload is sent to SQL Server with a different list of IDs. Okay. And the user can't inject anything in the SQL. Here you can somehow, if you invoke this query and you pass a custom value for calendar IDs, you might be able to inject SQL. Yes. I'm not sure it's possible because we might encode that, but maybe it's not encoded. And then there is a security risk here.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure how to do that.
If you edit the query,
yeah.
Oh, this is not the editing the query. Where is the list of parameters here?
You can do, you mean run?
It's in run. You see parameters?
Yeah.
So, and if you in the templates, instead of calendar ID like this with a template, just use at calendar IDs.
At?
Yeah, without the templating. Yeah, like this. And you can even remove the parentheses.
Yeah, that's about there. You just, yeah, okay. Here we
go. And then you can remove the parentheses.
This?
No, in categories. That you should not remove. But yeah,
over there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then inside parameters, you put back the curly braces and you put calendar IDs, colon, and you can pass an array like 1, 2, 3 or something like that. And if you then say query, then it should build the query for you. That's the goal.
This one.
Did you try it? So try to run it. Yeah. That's
expected. Oh, it's because it's
then
in.
Maybe put the parentheses in. That's weird. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but that's how it has been designed. So.
I'll try to debug this later and improve
that's
it.
the idea. Yeah, that's the idea. That's
Okay.
how it should work.
And now you make me think of another little feature. So I already demoed the GraphQL query before, but I did use it in a workflow so that you can call an API endpoint and export your data, right? So this workflow will actually validate that the user is logged in, and if not, redirect or 404. And if not, it returns the appointments, which is just the data export like that. And this should be JSON actually, but weird. That must be an import recipe issue there. But yeah, so you can see you can also name the file as a specific have a specific name for the file. But yeah, so it's mostly done in the CMS. There's a couple templates in the code, and the recipe is all there to create the content. Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. Anytime. I will stop sharing.
Okay, so going back to status, and last time we met, it was 2 weeks ago. Not much has been done, so that should be still quick. Orchard 1 first. On the status, we merged. Well, Matteo did merge. Had the ability to log out missing translation, meaning now there is a debug log configuration that you can change if you want to render in the log any localized string that is not actually localized, that is missing the localization. Can be useful. Maybe something we want to add also to our loggers in case someone wants to do that. Actually sign out user and change password. So if someone changes the password, then they will be signed out. Orchard Core, 20 feet. What do we have? This one. Updated Fluid. 20 feet. This one. There it is. Fixed white space parsing in output tags. Yeah, I think there was an issue that if you write something ambiguous like foo type size, and you do something like that, the issue is that, or maybe it was another issue, but there was an issue with that. This dash here, when you read it, you could read it like, oh, it's the name size dash this, or size dash this. So it's ambiguous. So in this case, it will be taken as this. If it's this, no, this is the identifier. If it's terminated like this, we assume that an identifier never ends with a dash. So it will be assumed to be this way. I think that was the issue here. No, that was this one. So fixed white space parsing in output tags. Oh, I think it's because there was an issue if you were doing that. It will say a parse error. And it will not with these things, but it would with that. So now it's fixed. Now you can do something like this. It's valid. Okay, you can do something like this on different lines. Fix Stack Overflow when using circular references with the JSON filter that has been fixed by Dave, who's here today. So circular references in the JSON filter. Somewhere there is a 2013. Yeah, I'll try and do that. StartBootstrap Agency 7, so updated agency, updated clean blog, and updated coming soon. Fifth column type, technical name, input. Technical name, display name, description. Okay, one of them must be read-only, this one. Updated Azure.Storage.Blobs libraries, updated Test.Sdk, external validation of email address. Okay. Bug. Okay. Fixes, cancel session and exception. Filters for contents list and users list. So filters has been merged. Such a small feature. So much code. Very nice. Move count tab shapes to shape attributes. Ooh. Ooh. Add shape attributes. Group shapes. So group shapes now is code. Okay. Is it better?
It's exactly the same, but if you turn the contents module off, it still works. The problem is we started using it with Audit Trail, and the SAS recipe doesn't use content, so it needed to go somewhere.
Graphical update. ToString in CultureDictionaryRecordKey because no reasons, but it works. iUser event handler base. For consistency, I think. And also, you don't have to implement everything. Workflow, add deserializeRequestData scripting method, new method, deserializeRequestData to make it more obvious than some things like this, which don't do the same thing. So deserializeRequestData returns you the request form post data, sorry, as a key value pair. Okay. Yeah. The idea is that there was an issue that this one was not doing what was expected from that. And the discussion is that request as JSON, this was not what this was doing. It was trying to return a J object. J object is not JSON. JSON is a serialization format that is usually a string. And here this will be like the C# object representation of JSON. So it's not really that. So this is removing the ambiguity that it's not JSON, it's not a J object, it's just a dictionary that can be used everywhere in C# or in JavaScript. This one is harder to use in JavaScript. So there is a new method. You should prefer this one to this one. There might be other new method. Thank you, Lasma. Remove unnecessary project reference. Good job. Fix .NET Core attach in launch.json. Theme Bootstrap. What? Why? What is that? So it's using Bootstrap 5 now? And we ship both? We said we will not do that. Why? Didn't we say we will not do that?
Do what?
Not do 5.0.
For the admin?
Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah, as I said that, and you open your mouth, I'm like, yes, right. So for the front-end theme, we don't care. It's fine. It's just not updating. Thank you for reminding me that. So that's good. New the theme. And I assume these ones also they use, the other ones they use also 5?
Yes.
Good.
They are their own
That's good.
assets.
Missing CSS. Redis InstancePrefix, you're going to share a Redis instance. Okay. So you can use the same instance for different orchard nodes, but you can provide a prefix for the keys. That's weird. If the tenant name is used, that's weird.
The issue in this case was actually sharing a Redis instance, not between tenants, but between different orchard instances.
I see. So we still need that. So I would assume that this should be initialized with the tenant, and if okay, sorry. So we already have a prefix. Today it's using the tenant name. So what you say is that it's not an issue with the tenant, but with other installations. So you could have different default tenant on different sites, different applications, but use the same. I see, that makes sense. Okay. Interesting. Should it be automatic? Nah, you might say, well, only if you want to share the same instance, then set that. Okay. I have to ensure BeforeDisposeAsync is called. Maybe, is there a comment optional prefix having a reason to share? Yeah, maybe. You see, if it had a few more words, it would have been obvious to me, and I'm sure obvious to more people, that to be shared, you see, like between two different applications. And so it's not just about the tenant, but you might have 3 different orchard applications using using a default tenant, but they want to use the same prefix. So the tenant are the same. Well, have the same name, or there is a single tenant on each instance, but they want to share the same. So that's why. So that maybe it should have used. You could use a different, a better explanation here, because I don't see any doc otherwise. So it's not clear. It was not clear to me. So I bet it won't be clear for many people. Indentation. No, let's try here. So that's a fix to the fix from before. Fluid update, update dependencies, jsplumb, test package dependencies, check implied permissions. Is that the old PR that we reviewed a few weeks ago, or is that a new thing?
Yeah, that's the one from a few weeks back.
Thank you. Yeah, so some implied permissions were not checked for the claims, and Thierry is fixing it. What's the meaning? Jean-Thierry, Thierry, Jean-Philippe? Why to use unique names? Now we have 2 Daves, but there is only one Sergio. Ah. Boom. Map the WS version claims type name claim to name from Sergio. He's back. I have no idea what it does, but it's good. Twice much. New contributor. Antoine, is Sergio a contributor already in Core? Probably, right? Yes. Read your buffer at the end of scope. Yeah, this one. So apparently, Jean-Philippe had some occurrences of double rendering of the view buffer text writer content. So Jean-Thierry made a feature that we can say, don't dispose it, even though it's the default behavior when you first render it, but dispose it at the end of the request. Good news is that the bug that triggered this refactoring will be fixed in the next service release of .NET, and there was a service release today. So I wonder if it includes these fix. I have to check.
Is it getting patched back to 3.1 as well?
Yes. Yes, because
excellent. That's good news.
Because 2 more customers reported an issue without Orchard. So that's it. Lockout on rogue passwords, a feature from Antoine. So change lockout configuration with documentation. It's beautiful. So now you can define the logic where you want users to be locked out. And if you want any users to be logged out automatically, how long, 5 minutes, and how many failed access. So if after 5 attempts it's of a wrong password, you are locked out for 5 minutes. You can't log in anymore. And there is a UI to unlock users or to lock users. Accessible only by user managers. Unlock on a post for managed users. You can't lock users, but you can disable them. It's different. There is no way to say, oh, lock for the next 5 minutes someone. It doesn't make sense. It could make sense, but we don't care. So here you can unlock someone who, so for instance, let's say someone typed 5 times the wrong password and calls the website administrator saying, hey, sorry, I made a mistake. Can you unlock me? Yes, the administrator can unlock them. That's good. New feature. It's part of the identity features. So just one more interface component. Good job. Code mirror CDN integrity. Some things were wrong. It has been fixed. And Antoine showed me how to get those hashes also. Adding docs for absolute URL and href filters. Good job. Okay. View updates, mkdocs, mkdocs, use scripts, and then use normalize username in filters. When you say filters, these are the things, the search filters. Yeah.
Yeah, just some typos.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks everyone for the contributions. Because I see there just a notification that in .NET 6 there are 3 new things: a new date only and a new time only struct types. So you see date only like this, just no time zone, nothing, just year, month, day in the correct order. And same thing for time, hour, minute, just to represent just a time or a date. And I think we have fields now for doing that also, but using date time. So now we could use custom types. They also map very nicely with databases. And there is a new feature, which is that when you do find system time zone by ID, it will look up for both the Windows one and the INA one. Today, we need to use an open source library made by this person, also Matt, which is called timezone something, and it's used in Fluid and in Orchard to convert to use only INA. So we use Node at time to list them, and we use this one to convert them, at least in Fluid. In Orchard, we might use only Node at time to do the conversion. But from 6.0, we might just need .NET 10, at least for finding that. That time might still be necessary, and maybe it won't be. We'll see. Also, yeah, but it will be with 6.0. Yeah, we'll talk about changing versions later. So that's it. Then demos team.
Let me share my screen. So back on good old Audit Trail. I think we're getting real close here with this, Gabor. So really just checking in that we
can we have a table here?
I'm going to go with no. But you know, if somebody else wants to make a PR turning it back to a table, I won't object. To be honest, most of the work here was just kind of bringing this more towards how we see things in Orchard. So now we have the text of what happened, the event or the category of events. So we have the user category and the content categories. The description of kind of what happened. This is comment text that can be entered on here. Which is a part.
So the IP address that was displayed, by default, is it gathered or not? If I enable the framework.
It's in the settings for Audit Trail here, which is where we found we needed the tabs. Events, where's it? Other client IP. Gabor, can you remember if that's on by default or?
That's on by default.
Okay, I need to check with, for instance, Microsoft security principles, because it might be private I'm not sure. Personal identifiable information, and that might be an issue if it's. I know there are rules like you can't. I know in Microsoft you can't log things like this, for instance. I have to check again. I had a training 2 weeks ago about it, and I already forgot. If it's not, then we should disable it by default. For instance, that would be a blocker in Microsoft. They will say, no, you can't have it by default, change it, and that might be confusing because personal information. Yeah, you see, Dave is mentioning in the chat that GDPR stuff is very strict. So,
yeah, that was actually something I brought up as another issue on this, which we at some point will need to address, is because we, by default, the user feature is on. Which logs when users log in and all the other things that happen to users, which is great. But it's not a feature, so I can't turn it off. I can disable them, but I probably need to turn it into a feature. But there's also no way to delete this from a GDPR point of view. So if I come along and say I want to delete my account, get rid of me, all those logs are still going to remain there. So that's probably something we also need to just consider, is whether or not there's some kind of extra permission which actually allows somebody to clear these events out.
And I'm not concerned actually, because it's not, Audit Trail is not enabled by in our feature. So at least that's it. We have that. It's not enabled by default, so it's not gathering data without any user action to say it's gather data.
Yeah. No, it's not enabled by default at the moment. And equally, I think that's a feature that we can, like, dealing with an issue like that is a feature that we can deal with later as a later feature for Audit Trail.
Good. And Dave is mentioning, and he also mentioned that we'll need a feature to be able to clear all the past activity for specific users.
That's exactly what I was suggesting.
Or to anonymize it. Yeah. Also,
yeah,
thank you. Sorry.
Something along those lines. We'll need to have something for that, but I don't think that needs to block this going in because, as you say, it's not on by default, and that we can add. So there's some other features that I just tweaked in here. If we go to the contents list, we've now got an audit trail button, which will automatically filter. You see, put the ID up here, so it's automatically filtered on that particular content item. When you do, you get to filter on the events for it as well, so you can just see the published events or the probably a restored event. Yeah, restored events there. Been tweaking with the sorts a little bit, which clearly I broke this bolt. There we go. Some of them working. So it now describes how they sort, and you can change them to descending. So I'll probably bring this into the content items list as well. It's just an extra feature for the thing. The difference is that we list 4 or 5, but you can actually do any modifications to those that you want, which are not necessarily in the UI. And the last one was dates. Work date. Yes, dates will work. Cool. So dates, date filters. Borrowed a little bit from GitHub here, and a little bit from Lucene, and a little bit from some Google Analytics, because dates, as was mentioned, are a little bit tricky to pass. And the big problem comes with dates on time zones, which, funnily enough, you were just talking about the time zone changes there. So we have the concept of now minus 1 day, 2 days, as many days as you want, really. So you can have the last 24 hours, you can go now minus 2, ranged, and now minus 1, which is, yeah, like I said, the previous 48 hours.
This is the only format you can use, the number, which is a day.
Lots of formats.
Can I say 1 hour?
So you can use that. You can say greater than or equals. Actually,
can I say 1 hour?
You can say the last hour. Come here.
Beautiful. That's
So at this point, you're right. If you want to get really specific on your hours and minutes, which if you're doing an audit trail, you kind of want to sometimes, you're into full date and you're into full UTC time zone.
So the -1, what if it was 1:0, for instance? And you see, like 1 would work. And if I say 1:0:0, or 0:0:10, that would be 10 minutes.
Yeah, but I am cheating here, and I'm using a date time parser, which expects a date. So
what I'm saying is that in the previous one, when you say the last 24 hours, the format with the last 24 hours here, instead of 1, -1. What if you? So what is this? How do we parse it?
It's parlot.
So you just say integer here.
Yeah.
So if it was a time span format, then you could say 10 minutes. And 1 would still be hours.
So as in 1 or...
Yes. So 1 would be hours, but 00, yes. So this would be 10 minutes. Or this would be 10 hours. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean.
If it's not ambiguous in terms of grammar, but instead of having
I almost did this as 24, as in hours rather than days. So at the moment it's now -1, which is a day.
Okay. And worst case, you need some enclosure like minus a square bracket, and you pass a time span. So it could be a custom case in this case. And this way, you don't have to compute the actual date for the last day. You just say no, last day minus 1 day or something like that.
Yeah, just the last day minus 1 day, which was the point, to make it simple.
Yeah. Okay.
But if you want to get it complicated, then you can go to full ISO standard.
It's still super nice, because sometimes you really want to say no before this date, and not the last hour, but this date.
Exactly.
This
and if I, for example, go to this is Kiwi-Dean, and Kiwi-Dean's in New Zealand rather than Cornwall. So now -1 is going to give them some completely different. Oh, actually, it's not completely different, because we're all living on the same. I haven't got enough data in here to properly demonstrate it. But in terms of showing stuff across country zones, at that point you need to start getting quite specific about, which time zone it is. Or you'll start getting slightly different results. But for your general searching, I think the whole now thing works quite well. It's simple and obvious.
Yeah, that's great. So what about the content item feature?
So I haven't done anything with the content item feature. I think we'll try and get Audit Trail through first. And I think we can do something with a list of history for without Audit Trail.
Yeah.
We have.
So, and now, yeah, the details page, how does it look like, the views and details and everything?
I haven't had a lot of time to change stuff here. So we've got the diff, and the idea would be to tab the diff. So I'll have details here and a tab here of the diff.
Yeah, like it.
I think. And probably put this view here, which is the actual built display, but everything disabled on a tab as well, because it's easy to render and it just makes sense. Plus, you want to be able to see if you're going to restore the content item, you want to be able to see if the definitions haven't changed so much that it won't render anymore. So I think I'll move that to the same page. So I'll have details, diff, full-blown content item, display here, or edit page here. If that makes sense. Gabor, what do you reckon?
If it's not an issue with performance to load that much content, or maybe it's just the same amount of content to load anyway. So.
It's exactly the same JSON.
Okay.
So it's just called build display. So it's no database hit to do it all in kind of one page and make it all visible there.
Awesome. Looks awesome. Looks good.
Cool. I have one technical question that I was just looking at stuff on and thinking it's a little bit, and I look back on Orchard 1. So when it comes to restoring, which we can do here, we can go on here and I can restore this one. What we've got at the moment is a controller which does it, and some handlers which fire off events, as we would kind of expect, which currently inherit from the content handler. And I'm kind of thinking that maybe this should actually be part of the content manager, because otherwise people won't pick up on these events, because you have to implement a different interface.
It will be fine. I assume it's the case in Orchard 1, but it will be fine.
Yeah, that's how it was in Orchard 1. So I just thought I thought we should probably do that just to make sense of it.
versioning is part of the interface, so restoring might be also.
Cool. Well, this is looking pretty close, Gabor.
Yeah, I see that. I'm just about wondering the date filter feature, because in Orchard 1, I can easily say that give me the events that happened in the first 2 weeks of August this year. How can I do that easily here?
You type the date.
Type the date. So I've done 7 days, 30 days, and 90 days by default.
No, yes.
Yeah.
So type that, type the date.
End or end. Copy paste. You can remove all the necessary part zeros, I'm sure.
Yeah, it looks for a full format when you're going dates, or actually this will work as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That it's maybe it's not user friendly.
Well, you have to type something. So if
the other option we had there was the date fields that were there previously, and the date pickers, and they don't work, or they didn't work properly, because this, when you have this, is a date and the server expected it to be in UTC. So if I take that and then I run it in a time zone when I'm a day out, for example, the New Zealand one, you get a completely different result, because everything is UTC based on the server. So everything was getting passed as a UTC. So that was one of the reasons I went with a couple of variations on this, because sometimes you're going to need to be quite specific, and sometimes you can just, if you're only in one time zone, like, then it's not so much of an issue. Also felt it was quite useful to be able to actually go specific time zone, or sorry, not specific time zone, but specific, let's go 90 days. To be able to actually pick an exact time.
So I will solve that first by generating less complex times when they are like this, simple, by day, like remove the time part. When you can, if you can do that.
I can. I did a few different examples here because I figured we would have different ideas.
And if there was, in this case, a better hints, documentation, or shortcut or button to have the formats, then we would something simple like this, where we can see the format where you can type 2 dates.
Not well documented here yet, but still to be done.
The picker is useful, and it's discoverable. If there is no picker, nobody will ever figure out how to type a range. So we need a way to explain, oh, you can also type a range.
Work mouse. Excuse me a second. The cats get hair on the mouse and it stops working. So the idea was to have a couple of these with ranges. Yes, okay, so I've got a couple with ranges, so you have an example of how a range works, and then also to document it here. What we could also do, and I haven't yet, is have another option here for custom, where we just pop up a modal with a date time picker, start, finish. Which I think would probably work okay as well.
Yeah, maybe even if it's like a last option called range or time period or whatever, and then it shows a random date 1, date 2, that you can just change manually, that will still be fine.
That would probably be enough.
Because because when you say last 24 hours, then there is a -1, which is nice. It could also be, that could be one, I mean, that is dynamically computed that shows 2 dates with the range so that they can change the range manually, and that would be fine. Yeah, we need an example.
Maybe for one of these last 7 days or something like that, I need to do a range instead, so that there's a better example here.
But not from one of these examples, because how do you know that you have to pick the 7 days to find an example of a range? Something called range, custom period, something called custom period. You click on custom period in the list, and then it shows a random custom period, but at least you know how to type a custom period.
Yeah, that could work.
Custom period, custom range, I don't know what's the proper. You see, because last hour and previous hour, what's the difference?
Wow,
yeah, but who cares?
Yeah. Exactly. That became difficult to describe in a way that will be translatable as well.
I get it, but yeah, I mean, yeah. I think we just need the same way it's done maybe in GitHub. We don't need 24 and 48 or 7 and 30 and 90. We just need one, like 7 days. And then, oh no, I don't want the last 30 days, so I will change the 7 by 30. No, one with last and one with previous, maybe. And
yeah, I mean, GitHub has no UI for this at all. And GitHub is also challenged on the time zone stuff because everything's in UTC. So any of the date syntax, you have to supply UTC values to, which kind of makes sense for GitHub because they're hosted in one place, I suppose, and they have no clue on what a user time zone is.
JavaScript, but sure. Just add an option that shows 2 days.
A range.
And,
yeah.
A simple.
Done. Happy days.
Thank you.
Cool.
Who could imagine dates and times could be so complicated?
I think that's it, unless anyone has some topics, questions.
Sebastian, I was hoping that I could get my PR pushed through. It was a fix for the media library on .NET 6 Preview 4. Dean
Thursday.
reviewed it.
Yeah, Thursday. That's when we do the triage, the reviews, and the merge.
Okay.
And if it was approved, it should be merged. Otherwise, it's waiting for Thursday for the official approval.
Okay, great.
Thank you. 1.0, let's ship Audit Trail and ship Orchard 1. And Dave's fix. Possibly.
Okay.
All good? Questions? Thanks, everyone. See you next week for more demos. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate.